Hello, hello. Welcome to Just Between Us. I'm Dana. Today we have Estefa Pastor, who is a yoga instructor and also does retreats around yoga and yoga healing and also sound healing, right?
Mhm.
And today we want to talk about all things yoga. So you being a yoga instructor, Briar's also studied yoga, and you could say yoga instructor too. I don't know if instructor is the right
Time
word,
ago.
but
Not active.
yeah.
Not an active one, but did yoga teacher training 22 years ago now. So yeah.
But you practice yoga, I think,
Yeah.
since you've studied it
Mhm.
consistently. So I think today we wanted to explore all things yoga, how yoga has helped you, how yoga has evolved in how you teach it, and in all things yoga.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to sort of look at yoga as the holistic magical system that it is and demystify some of the things that I hear from people. As a therapist, I hear people having some blocks to it and be able to maybe talk a little bit about how it's personally made my life way better. Hear from Estefa why she's been drawn to this, and then answer, your questions because you are not
Yeah.
a yoga practitioner. So yet.
Yeah.
So that I thought was a good opportunity just to jump in there because it is so much of it just has everything in it. For mental, emotional, physical healing. And it would be great if even one person listening to this goes out of their comfort zone and tries to bring it into their life. So that was the whole idea for this episode today.
And I also wanted to add that you teach various kinds of yoga, right?
Mhm.
And that's also, I think, what I wanted to explore as well, because I think my experience of trying different kinds of yoga I like more than others, some more than others, because they open me up in certain ways that others didn't. And I feel also it's so, like anything in life, it depends also on the instructor, how the instructor activates you in the class or in the one-on-one. I prefer actually yoga one-on-one, to be honest. I find yoga in a class setting sometimes very. Anyways, I want to go into it more later, but it's also demystifying what yoga isn't, because I think that sometimes that people go into yoga and have an understanding of it and we're like, oh yeah, that shit ain't for me. But I think because sometimes how it's portrayed.
Do you find it intimidating in a group setting?
Yes, we were just talking about it. So
Okay.
for example, in some settings, it can be very competitive. And at least how I find it in some, like when I first, so I'll go backtrack with me. When I first started yoga, it was because I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 21. And so my doctor was like, maybe you should try stuff that help you with your nervous system. So I was like, cool. So I was in Boston at the time. I just graduated, and right next to me was a hot room yoga studio. So I was like, cool, I'll try it. And I loved it. I didn't know anyone. No one knew me. It was just the act of sweating in a hot room and then moving felt so uncomfortable, but so good. I don't know why, but I liked it. So then after that, when I went to Arizona to my family, I even got a yoga instructor to come home and teach me a few moves, but it was all with the intention of connecting to myself, like kind of. So I think they did more hatha, I think. And I loved it, and I kept practicing it actually. Then when I moved back to Oman, I found an instructor that everyone was using, and I don't want to blame her. It's not her fault, but like it was maybe part of my journey. I remember a few classes where it was too fast and it was one-on-one. Like she would push me too hard, and it wasn't kind of why I was seeking yoga. I felt like I was, or maybe I wasn't ready for it. So I remember her telling me once in meditation, "Oh my God, you're too nervous, you're too much, you're too this." And I was just like, "Whoa, okay, no, I don't want this. I don't want this thing." And I have that tendency. If something is too weird, abnormal, uncomfortable, bye, I don't want. You know? Because I wasn't really doing it for fitness. I was doing it for coming back into my body. And I think now I look back, maybe she did try to push me too hard, and I was getting too much in my head. about, oh my God, this is not this way. And then that was too uncomfortable. And right now I can be able to handle that discomfort. I know that discomfort is telling me something. But then I didn't know how. And instead, obviously, naturally, she was just projecting to me what I felt about myself at that moment. And I wasn't ready to handle that,
I don't think that's an uncommon experience.
Yeah.
When people come to it. And so maybe we can ask you,
Yeah.
like, what's your journey to becoming a yoga teacher, like becoming a yogi and then a yoga teacher? Like, could you tell us about that journey?
Well, first of all, I am so happy to be here. So thank you, Brian, and thank you, Dana. So my yoga journey started about 15 years ago. And like you, my first class was a hot class. It was a Bikram class. And it was a friend of mine who was insisting, because I had shoulder and back problems. So she said, you should come to a Bikram yoga class with me. And I wasn't really very interested, but she insisted, and I really liked this friend of mine, so I went. And I'm not going to say it was like love at first sight, but there was something there, and it was probably like the sweat, and so it was like the physical exercise, right, that drew me to it. And then I kept on going on and off, and then a little more, and then that studio changed and started bringing other styles of yoga. And then I was like, oh wait, there is more. And so then I never continued doing Bikram hot yoga, just because, I had done it for 2 years. And then I started discovering all of these new styles of yoga. Just quickly, I practiced for a few more years. And then I was interested in pursuing this yoga knowledge and trying to know a little bit more, and what best or better place to go to than the source. So I went to India, and that's what I did, where I did my yoga teacher training, which is the certification that you do, that you've done as well, Briar. So I did a month over there, and then I came back, and I was like, wait, after 4 weeks, I'm not ready to teach, no? Because it's only 4 weeks. So it's not really enough time to go in front of a class and teach humans with their bodies and their problems. So I thought, I'm just going to be humble, and I'm just going to take a little bit of time and continue practicing, continue learning, workshops. And slowly I started to teach. And I've been teaching for 5 years, and it led me to quit my corporate life just last September. So it's been around 6 months that I do this now full time. So 15 years ago, I didn't even know what yoga was, and now it's my entire life. So it's just incredible. I resonate a lot with, or I've heard from my students so many times, that blockage about not finding the class that suits you or the teacher. And what you were describing in Oman, I think, as I translated it, is an exchange of energy. Like you go to a class, and then you either connect with the teacher or you don't. I think we're very blessed in Dubai. We have loads of yoga studios with lots of teachers. So I always say to my students, like, if you didn't like one class, try something else, until you find the right thing. And then, of course, my first question is always, what do you want to get out of it? Is it the physical exercise, or do you have like some physical pain, or do you feel very stressed? And then I will guide you to a specific type of yoga class. So if it's about, I'm always stressed, I have a very, high level corporate job, and I just need a little bit of relaxation, I'm not going to guide the person to a very hard pace, hardcore vinyasa yoga. Maybe I say, why don't you try yin yoga? And then, they find that, like, slowly, that peace and that calmness. And then maybe they go and try other styles of yoga. I know group classes can be a little bit intimidating, but at least for me, what I really try always is to make everyone feel included and safe, let's say. Like a safe environment. That's why I throw jokes here and there, and I try to, okay, we're just doing yoga, like it's okay, and you don't have to do anything perfect. And then, of course, the typical thing where somebody would come to me and be like, okay, it's my first class, I'm really not flexible. And I'm like, that's amazing. And that's exactly why you're here. Because if you were working in Cirque du Soleil, maybe you don't need to come to a yoga class. But yeah, so it's really important to to understand as well that the first time you do something, you're not going to excel at it. That would be too boring also, right? You go somewhere, you take a class of boxing for the first time and you're just perfect. Well, what's the interest in it, right? So yeah, it just humble us as well a little bit, that practice.
But I think it's also like what you said, finding what is it you want to get out of it. So, for example, that's why I like yin a lot. And I was doing yin. And again, I prefer privates. The reason I do is because, especially with yin, like my tense areas are going to be different than yours. And I like that attention and I want to focus that hour on me. So that's why and I feel sometimes in a class, you can't really naturally, you can't pay attention to somebody's imbalances and this. And so, but what about, like, for example, when you're saying hard yoga, right? Then I understand if it's yin, it's more about like stretching, and especially if, like, say you go to the gym and you're tight, you'd recommend yin yoga.
So there is a misconception, I think, about people, and I've been there, so I'm the number one guilty. It took an injury and I broke a toe. And then after 3 months of doing nothing, the only thing that I could start doing was yin yoga. And before it was like, yin yoga, please, it's like for losers, because no, I need to sweat and I need to, that was my misconception. And then I started doing yin yoga and I'm like, this is not that easy and this is not boring at all. Of course, it depends on the teacher again and the class. But when you're holding a posture, even if you're lying down or sitting for 3, 4, or 5 minutes, you can sweat as well, but it's your mind that it's the most triggered. And a lot of athletes that come to a yin yoga class, they think this is the hardest thing I've ever done. So it's not that easy, but it's a different vibe than if you go, and maybe a little bit less intimidating than if you go to a vinyasa or ashtanga class. In a yin yoga class, we're going to work a lot on the connective tissues, which is the fascia. Is like a spider web that is all around the body, and it helps with mobility of your joints. It helps to prevent the stiffness that comes in the body with age, and that's one of the benefits. We breathe, right? The harder that it gets, the more I would cue to breathe, right? Because that's something that's available, and that when you learn to breathe, and this is always something that you can take off your yoga mat and into your daily life. I say it a lot in class, right? Like, okay, we're here practicing and doing exercises on how to confront and overcome situations that we get. We get stressful lives at work with our boss, with our partners. And then if you know that, for instance, you're getting a little stressed, maybe it could be in the middle of a meeting that you just discreetly start breathing, right? And all of a sudden your heart rate slows down, and then you can focus better and you can think better. So you're like, okay. So there's those little tips, that help you for a mental health, like overall. What else? I'm just trying to.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's so true. And you know how, like, I know you love your one-on-ones because you love that, right?
Yeah.
But I also think, like, if you, okay, so to me, the yoga class is like a microcosm of life, right? And when you're on that mat, everything you get stimulated to do in a yoga class, if you're doing physical practice with others around you, will replicate how you're moving through your life, like you're saying there, including how you're affected by other people being in the room with you, like in life. So for me, it's practicing in real time, watching my mind, watching where, like, I'll watch my mind sometimes and it'll just go, no, you can't do that. And then you practice literally that flexibility move that we do in therapy with people all the time, where you go, and yet I'm going to see. And you absolutely get shocked. Your body can do way more than your mind will tell it it can. You can feel more than emotionally than your mind will ever say you can. Like, we know this. We know these principles. Like in therapy, yoga is so effective at holding you to the fire because it's everything all at once there. You can't escape. And you say this in your classes, there's no escape. There's nowhere to go, and then, like a teacher who can make a safe space. Estefa makes a really safe, like, how would I describe it? Almost like there's a whimsical quality to your teaching, but also there's just a lovingness to it. I think because you're Cancerian sun, right? So you're holding that space for everybody. And so you've got to have that safety to really go into this. But you can, to me, the mat's a laboratory where you are practicing being a human, and as we know, physical yoga is just one of the 8 limbs, right? And so, but it's been reduced to thinking that's what yoga is only, and it's about getting fit, which is just so, there's a happy side effect really of yoga. But I think you would like it. Like if you could look at it that way because I know that you like that, like you like watching what happens when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because it's happening physically, but it's also happening interpersonally in the room, because your mind will do it. You'll be on your mat, you'll be doing something, and then you'll spot someone and you'll be like, I can't blah, they can blah, how come so? And you just watch it and you go, wow, this is bullshit, and then you bring yourself back. You get to practice it in real time. It's really gold.
It's interesting what you're saying. I'm thinking about it because like yin, it's a hard that I'm willing to take. It's funny. Like the instructor that I had for yin, you all know her. She's quite hard. And so she'll make me do weird stuff and then bring these tools and then like do it. And she's like, breathe. I'm like, how? Like how? And she's like, breathe. And because she's funny, she's also Cancer. Like she's warm too. And she's like, just breathe. And I'm like, but she's like, don't talk, just breathe. But like there's so many things going on. And so, and even her classes, I don't mind, but because yin is such a slowness that it feels that it's not a competition, but it's something about the fast yogas.
You panic?
Yes. And that's why I was thinking about what you were saying now when you're thinking about yourself in life. And it's true. I do have a thing with, especially in learning situation, when there is a big group and it's been since childhood, like with the teacher explaining, I'm always like, I need slowness. I need the teacher to go slow. I need detail. I need, and I'm always like, and then when I see the class going further than me, I'm like, what, can you come down? And then I start getting a bit like overwhelmed and maybe, I don't know, insecure, and like, not because I think they will, but that I think they'll just go ahead and I will just be like, what the fuck am I doing? And it's funny because that's why I don't enjoy fast yoga class, because when it's too many people and then they're like, oh, do this and then bend this. And they're like, what, right hand, what, left hand, where, what arm, where? And then you see the girls, and then you're just like, fuck you. And then you're like, wait, teacher, like, hello, can you come look at me? And so it's true. It does become like a playground in the sense where you start getting to see yourself and how you show up in other parts of life in a group setting, especially when it's around learning, at least for me.
It's so important because we're taught we should seek out places where we're in our agency, where we can perform. But actually, when you think about it, we've talked about this before, the healthiest room for you ever to be in is the room where you are the dumbest.
Fuck.
That's the healthiest room because your ego doesn't like it, but your wisdom does, because it's the richest opportunity to grow, right? So if you're in a yoga class and everything's going really fast and that's exactly where you get to work with the part of you that panics there, because the problem isn't the performance. The problem, if there's a problem, it's not really a problem, but if there's something to work with, it's that sense of panic or that belief, I can't keep up or I'm not as good as. And you get to heal that. And it has nothing to do with you ever being able to pull off the hardest asana. I've never been capable of really advanced asana ever. But for me, my journey towards yoga, and I first went at 9, and I remember I went with my mum and my sister, and there was this lady, it was the local shops, it was in Australia, and her name was Elaine, and she was in her 60s. She had her hair up. I can still see her in my mind's eye. This is how affecting she was. She had her hair up on top of her head, and she had a leotard and tights, and she had a belt on her leotard. Yeah.
Oh, well, like jazzercise days.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And she was so elegant and beautiful. And I remember just like looking at her and thinking, she's so beautiful. And then I loved the class. It was, looking back, it was Yoga Nidra. Yeah. And I just thought it was the best thing ever. And then I remember thinking, oh, I want to be that when I grow up. And then I thought, oh, but I can't be. Like there was this idea that you can't be, that's only some people that get to do that. It was a really weird thing. So it just sort of stayed dormant. And then in my 20s, I came to Iyengar. And all I did in my 20s was Iyengar yoga, which is kind of just, quite exacting. It's very Virgo, finding the right alignment and practicing that way. And then I, in my late 20s, discovered it was sort of Ananda yoga. It was, my teachers had studied with John Friend in America, and they came out to Australia and they opened a yoga school, and it was called Radiant Light Yoga. And it was heart-centered, emotional focused, about opening. They were musicians, so there was a lot of bhakti yoga, a lot of kirtan, a lot of chanting, a lot of meditation, and asana to the level that you wanted to. Looking back on it, I did a lot more than I do now, but it wasn't really the focus so much as the whole system of yoga. And I studied them for a year and a half, and that completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. Like, for me, that was the journey to becoming a therapist. While I funded that, I trained to be a massage therapist, and I funded it by doing massage in a holistic health center. And to me, that was so important to being a therapist, because I literally had to put my hands on people every day, every day, every day. I had to get over that fear of putting my hands on people, which all of it makes sense now towards being a therapist. But that was such a great thing to do. And I kind of got to see how we carry these stories of ourselves about, we have these seeds when we're kids, right? About what we want to be and who we want to be. And then our psychology gets in the way and we tell ourselves that that's not for us. And then we somehow find our way back to it. I don't know. Were you drawn to it as a little girl?
No, I wasn't. It was not very common in Spain.
No.
Like, not at all. So no, I was never really in contact with it. But there's a few things that, since you were talking, I've been like really dying to say, and I'm like, I'm gonna forget them. I have to write them down. Cool. But it's just like something you said, Dana, before reminded me of like the ultimate goal of yoga, which is to end suffering. That was like years and years, thousands of years ago. It's to end suffering, and suffering as in, when you're a human, it's like, why am I anxious? Why am I scared? And like, we all have that, right? And a little bit of suffering, I think it's necessary and a part of the human experience. And then there's like a little difference, of course, a big difference actually, between classic yoga, if you want to refer to it like that, like the one many years ago where it was more focused on self-actualization, and the one now, the modern yoga, it's more about wellness and, finding peace and calm, because most of us are chronically stressed. So it has evolved, but I think it's on the mat we practice self-acceptance, and we work on embracing the discomfort. And this is something that I always say in class: you are going to feel discomfort. If you have nowhere to go, right? What do you do? And on those, and when you were talking and you were describing your not wanting to be in a fast-paced yoga class, I agree with Briar. I mean, there is something triggering there, right? But it's okay. You're not forced to go to that class because you have to work on those things. I always recommend start maybe with something that's more slow paced, and then you start practicing all of these other things that are not the postures, which is the breathing, which is the accepting yourself the way you are. A lot of times in class, I say, watch your internal dialogue. When you're struggling to do an advanced asana, an advanced pose, are you being cheerful to yourself? Or you're like, of course I'm not going to do it, Like, no, because there are the girls on the first row doing so amazingly well, and I will never be like them. And then with the years, you start not even looking at the first row, being so happy with where you are on your mat, not wanting to achieve those advanced asanas, because they're not going to make you a better human, to be honest. But right? Yeah. But you've learned tools to feel better with yourself, right? That you can take out in your life every day. It's magic.
Because the fast yoga reminds me of HIIT. HIIT training? I fucking hate HIIT. Like that fast, like it reminds me of the same, even though it's very different, but that when some things is too fast, I can't. And again, I think maybe it's one part is also embracing that maybe that isn't for me, and but keep trying and being curious of like, oh, if it's not for me, it doesn't mean anything. If I try it, it doesn't. I might like something about it, like being open rather than closed. But it's funny that it's, to me, the same feelings of when it's very fast. It's like hit because people are moving so fast, and it's like I like weightlifting, but I like it when it's slow because it's I don't do it fast.
So it's good to this is about broadening your
Yeah,
repertoire, right?
exactly. So kind of
like Estefa saying, like that relationship with pain,
Yeah.
is the main problem we've got as a culture, like as a humanity. We don't want pain. We've decided, we've been taught it's a pathology and we should get rid of it. And so when you get on the yoga mat, walking into the room, you're going to feel maybe not pain, but discomfort, extreme discomfort, I would say sometimes. Really, your whole self is yelling at you.
Not for an hour, but that's on.
No, off and on, which is how it actually comes in life. But we learn to roll with it because you open to it, you don't contract around it. You learn to intelligently let it happen and trust yourself to let it happen. That translates into being willing to take those sort of painful, emotional, psychological things that come along in life and not contract around them. You learn the same mechanisms non-verbally, and that's really powerful. And your thing about, when you're in a group and it feels like it's going too fast, that's the perfect metaphor for that's what happens in life. So it doesn't mean that you have to keep up. It's not about that. You may learn to be comfortable in that class, going at your pace, and everyone around you sun salutating really fast, and you're just doing, but you're at ease. That will translate. So you can't go wrong if you take it that. But if you take it as an imperative of having to keep up, be as good as, compete, be the best, because your body changes all the time, class to class. So you learn to let that go, and then you learn to let that go outside. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's why I am not a fan of having mirrors in the yoga room. And a lot of people come and, if they go to a class where there is no mirrors, they feel a little, maybe unsettled at the beginning. Or if there is a mirror, I see people all the time checking themselves. And I'm like, don't look at the mirror. It doesn't matter. My job as a teacher is to correct you, to correct your posture if there is something wrong. But it also helps preventing you checking yourself and compare yourself to others, right? So that's something. And also phones or people filming, the entire class. That's something that, it makes us cringe from the inside.
Yeah.
Again, because maybe you on the mat next to it, but you don't want to be filmed because this is your moment to be, to be safe and to be on your mat. And then you find yourself in social media and you're like, no, thank you.
Yeah,
so
of course.
There is a little bit of respect as well for this practice. You have to step into that room feeling that it's a safe environment, which is what we were saying at the very beginning. It helps also relax and trying new things.
It's funny, and I'm thinking about it also. What I'm going to say can sound very ignorant, and wallah, it might be very ignorant. But sometimes I feel, and could be very ignorant, that yoga is a thin person's exercise. A person who doesn't need issues. Yeah, because having struggled with weight on my, since I was maybe 9, 10, it's like, okay, it's like, why would I go to yoga? I'm not going to lose weight from that. So if I'm going to go, I'm going to do something where I'm actually going to lose weight. Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to dedicate that 1 hour for something. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but I'd rather choose that discomfort that will give me a result. Whereas this discomfort won't give me a result. You know what I mean? So it's
not uncommon, that one.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Because I thought that's how I
I used to get asked when I was teaching a lot of classes in Australia, I'd have people say to me, and you must hear this all the time, they'd say, can I lose weight doing this? Yes. They would ask me this. And I would say, look, when you dedicate yourself to your practice, you will lose what you don't need. So if that's stuff on your body you don't need, yes. If it's emotional stuff, yes. If it's mental stuff, yes. Will that give you the body that your mind's been conditioned to think by the society that you should have? No, because the problem there is society, not you. So But the great thing about dedicating yourself to practice is you change the relationship with your body and you stop thinking like that. So you stop thinking that there's something to be achieved in terms of making yourself smaller. You just want to be the vibrant shape, size that you're meant to be. So it heals that rubbish that we're fed, because people are all built different ways, and you're just meant to be the size you are, but that was a really common, you must get asked that.
I
all
love
the time.
everything you said.
Right?
Every single word you said, I think it's beautiful. Yes, I get that a lot. And I think, better answer than the one you just gave, there isn't. It's you have to be patient. And people nowadays are used to fast result, right? Otherwise, they're not interested. So maybe it's not for that person at this time. And maybe the person will eventually go back to it when they're ready. But there are like good side effects of practicing yoga, which is you're going to start leaning towards healthier habits. It doesn't mean you have to become vegan, and no, that's not what it is. But you definitely are going to start treating your body a little bit better, with a little bit more respect. And maybe you start watching, a little bit how you eat. And that maybe means less processed food, which is good. Maybe if you start your day with some yoga class, or you end your day with some yoga class, you're gonna eventually move towards choosing healthier habits for yourself. And then, as you practice, there are also the other side effects that the yoga practice has in your body, which they're going to help reduce inflammation in your body. They're going to help have a better digestion, because some of the poses, they massage, they twist, they squeeze, your organs, because of the deeper breaths that we are encouraged to take. You're going to work on your lungs and your diaphragm, and the list goes on and on. So there's so much to it, that you can't just, yes, you might not lose weight if you come once a week, right? And that might not be the result you're looking for, and that's okay. I also ask people, how much of your time are you willing to put into your practice? You expect results. Let's say it's not weight, but they want to, get better at yoga and do like full splits, for example, or an inversion, but they come once a week. Well, obviously, it's going to take a long time for you to get there. But it's up to.
But see, that's something really interesting that, or maybe I didn't know, but I'm sure other also don't know. I don't think a lot of people realize the benefits of yoga, like that it also has health benefits, that if you do certain movements, it would stimulate certain things. Maybe it could help with other like physical ailments or biological stuff too. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't have enough time in a class, to share. That's why I like yin yoga, because in a yin yoga class, while you are 4 or 5 minutes, in a posture, I can talk.
Yeah.
And in a fast-paced yoga class, I might not be able, because I have to cue the class. But there's so many benefits.
Is that all forms of yoga have those benefits, or is it specific ones?
A normal yoga class is going to include breathing. It's going to include twisting, forward bends, back bends. So you're moving, as we said, like the fascia, but also organs. Is going to pump blood. Is going to squeeze and release some organs, so it brings again, the blood like fresher in a way. You practice an inversion, and it's going to get the blood down to your brain, and then again it also works on the lymphatic system. What else? There's so many. So breathing, meditation, right? So whether it's just the 5 minutes at the end doing shavasana, when you lie down, but then you're already resting there, and then you've been meditating throughout the whole class, because you're forced to focus your attention in what you're doing. So I always imagine my brain with like 15 tabs open, like a laptop with 15 tabs open. And when I'm forced to think of one or two, the others kind of are closed. So I think that's why you feel so good afterwards, because you've taken deeper breaths. So you brought more oxygen into your body. You've moved your body, your joints, your organs. Depending on every posture, it has different benefits. You've meditated, so you feel more, less triggered by everything that's happening. And then you take a little bit of time at the end to, to relax. And then you just feel very good, right? So,
Yeah.
It's like a journey. When you
Yeah.
finish a good yoga class, you feel like you've been on a journey.
yeah.
It's my yoga teacher in Australia, Adam, he always used to say, you can't take a wound up coil of wire, like tightly wired spring, like a lot of people are living. You can't just take it, lie it on a cushion and go relax. You have to work it. And so that's what happens. And yoga's working on all the different bodies. So it's working the different systems, the different bodies but as well as your energetic bodies, right? So it's a full system of health, really. And physical yoga is hatha yoga. That just means physical yoga. It's a ha, sun, tha, moon. Hatha, bringing together sun and moon, right? So this is the physical practice. Now, in hatha yoga, you have different schools. You have Ashtanga, Iyengar, some of the other ones,
Vinyasa,
Kundalini,
yeah.
you Vinyasa, Yin, you have all the different styles, right? But people get confused. They think, well, what's this and what's that? But it's all hatha yoga. Now it's one limb. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, asana, which are the postures that everyone thinks are yoga, or not everyone, but people commonly think are yoga, gets one sentence in the whole of the Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras is our oldest text on yoga. And it says, asana is a comfortable and steady position. That's it. That's all they say about doing the practice. But when you think about that, it has a lot of deep meaning to it. It's a comfortable and steady position. This is our aim with every single posture. I mean, the point is so you can be at such peace and in flow and harmony with your body that you can self-actualize. Like that was where it was originally for. So you can sit in meditation for 4 years in a cave without your body aching because your body's just so great, right? So, but you think if you try and make every posture a comfortable and steady position. So if you're sitting in, something really that looks simple, but you're making it a steady and comfortable position, you're doing yoga perfectly. Some people can do that in the most advanced posture. Great. That's not necessary. You just have to work the step you're at and make it steady and comfortable. And so you're working with your ego in real time. Like just seeing that thing come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
You were asking, like, do you get that in every single yoga class or different style of yoga? Well, obviously the yin yoga is going to work a little harder on the rest and digest and the parasympathetic nervous system, because it spends a little bit more time. A more fast-paced yoga class, whether it's a vinyasa or ashtanga, it will still work on that. Maybe a little less, but it will still give you that. And there's supposed to be like a balance between your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic. But because, again, society nowadays, we're always chronically stressed and always, in such a masculine energy, and it's always, flight and fight mode, that yoga also brings this to the table, increases the rest and digest nervous system, activity, to bring a little bit of balance as well, So you're going to have a little bit more of that in a yin yoga class, but you will still find it in a vinyasa class, in a hatha class, or any other of the styles.
So we were saying in the vinyasa or the more active, you will still tap into the rest and digest, but it will also have the when you go to the gym where it taps into the...
A little bit, yeah. It's going to increase your heart rate, but of course the entire class is not like that. Now, I am talking from my
your type of
perspective,
class.
And my type of class and the teachers that I go to. But this doesn't mean that you might go to a yoga class and it looks like you went to the gym. I mean, this is not what it's supposed to be, from my humble perspective, of course, an opinion. But it could be that, and if you've encountered that and you loved it, amazing. And if it wasn't what you thought it should be, or it didn't resonate with you, then try something else, another teacher.
Yeah.
They talk about in yoga, a balance between what they call abhyasa and what they call vairagya, right? So two Sanskrit words. So abhyasa is like your exertion, yang energy, be strong, be brave, push forward. Like, this is like your standing postures and your inversions and your, like, the stuff that you're saying you weren't that fond of, right? And then your vairagya, your receptive, opening, surrendered postures. So you do that more in a yin class only. But yeah, this idea that is easy.
Yeah, it's not.
We know it's not, right? In actual fact, I would flip them. When you think about, okay, so that might be one might be more difficult, but it's not necessarily harder.
So the faster yoga is not difficult on my body, it's difficult for my mind.
You panic
which is
in the
funny.
mind.
It's not a body that I can't. It's funny. Like if I go to the gym and there's a weight I can't do, I'm not gonna lie to myself and pretend I'll do it. Why am I gonna fuck myself, Yani? Why? But it's the fastness that gets me panic. So it's much more brain emotion rather than a physical discomfort. And now, because I'm one of those people, if I know something, like now after knowing this, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna go to that class because I want to see what I'm gonna get out of it, and what's gonna happen to my mind and my emotions, and I wanna go there now because this is a very new insight, and now my brain is thinking like yoga is, or maybe this is again a view that I didn't see, but yoga is much more than just a workout, or I don't even know if it is a workout. Like I don't know, because when I go to yin, I don't go for a workout. I go because I tend to get stiff. So I find that it helps just kind of like, I feel like after like a noodle, I feel after. So that's why I go. So I go through that pain, but it feels good because you when you're really connecting to that pain, you see that it starts expanding. Especially for me, it's this part, you feel it expanding, and that's like, whoa, that is like, so I go through the pain because I want to feel that, because it's a very interesting feeling. But it's true, let's say my learning is that panic, and like when you put myself in a society setting, that panic is much better, but it's still there. So it's interesting how I can help myself in that setting, in the outside world, by doing something like that, which actually not only helps me with that, but also helps my body too, because then I open the fascia and do all that. So it's like, oh, wow, it's like a win-win. So it's much more than just a movement that helps your lymphatic system and all that stuff, but it's also, what do you call it when you put yourself in certain scenarios so that you can learn? Exposure therapy. Yes, that's the word.
It's exceptionally good exposure therapy, right?
Yeah.
And the point of today's session has been achieved, to get you done and to come to yoga with me.
Yeah, and to be
we're done.
Links, and I will go to.
Yeah.
But it's so cool because I know you love that, and I know that you would love like that laboratory. It's an exploration. I'm doing an exposure. Oh wow, look at my mind. Look how triggered I am by that. That's good. It's not. But we're so encouraged to only seek out situations where we're in our agency, but I know you're not like that. So I know that you'd like this because it does. And the side effects to the body are profound because it's an ancient system. Like it's really, really wise as a system. So your body responds to it, because bodies have natural intelligence. And so our psychology is, who cares? The body goes, yes, thank you, because when for working on things like fear, right? Especially if you're, with teachers who will emphasize twists and kidneys and adrenals and things like this, like it's something which really can help make a lot of balance for what we're facing a lot of as a collective. And so, because fear is very contagious. And so when you're in a class and everyone's working on coming into rest and digest and tend and befriend, really even further, there's something contagious about that too. So there is a benefit to the group.
There's a collectiveness.
That's why for me, I'm saying I want to try the group because there's something for my personal learning too. But there's also something about coming to terms with yourself in the sense of knowing how my body works, but also being in a room and seeing everybody doing their thing, whatever that is, but still I'm doing mine, and that's still beautiful, and that still holds, and that's still
Yeah,
you
not
know,
abandoning yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because
exactly. And seeing how that plays out in life, but then actually, what better place to master that in this, so that then you get better at it in life. And it's funny, I never thought of, this is why I'm like, whoa, in that way.
yeah,
Even though I believe, like, I really believe that, what's his name? Joe Rogan always says, choose your discomfort, otherwise discomfort will choose you. It's so fucking true.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not like I enjoy the gym and lifting weights and I love this, but I like how I feel. I like, I know how good it is for my body too. And I feel it too. But it's not a discomfort that I'm not uncomfortable feeling. But that yoga, going to a fast yoga class, where it's like no. And I know that when you were saying that, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't actually think of it in terms of me in life and me putting, that is what shows up for me, especially in when it's around learning and feeling panicked and like I can never keep up. And it's like, oh my God, what a nice way to actually try something like this and work with it, because to see how that will also show up in my life too, like how you build that muscle.
absolutely. And it's the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your whole life becomes practice,
Yeah.
right? There's no such thing as not being like, it's all practice. And then you get out of living life trying to make it a performance, which goes to some very key psychologically healthy things to achieve. Like if we can live life as a practice, a process to be experienced, rather than as a performance we've got to be good at, bingo, right? So the yoga class is that, and will show you how to do that off the mat. I promise you, it's like change your life.
And
Yeah.
sorry, I just thought, since now we got you to like keen to try a class, I'm gonna continue and take it further. No, I'm kidding. But
Please do.
like yoga retreats. Why do I love to host
Tell us.
or to host a yoga retreat? It's because I've done around 7 to date, and it's just an environment where I'm leading the retreat. So for me, it's work, of course. But like when you join a yoga retreat and you are, I don't know, in Thailand for 5 days, there is everything around you. Like it's a holistic week. And my goal in the retreat is not you're going to finish the 5th day and you're going to be able to stand on your head. No, that's never the goal. And maybe it doesn't attract certain types of people, and that's totally fine. What I like to do in retreats is to go out of the comfort zone. And of course, we're going to have the physical practice in the morning, but we're also going to start with a lot of breathing. So longer sessions of breathing, longer sessions of meditation. So for example, the morning practice is around 2 hours and a half. Then you have amazing food, right, as a reward. Then you have like you're slowing down. Of course, there is free time, and then there is something in the afternoon or in the evening. It might be a yin class, but I also do things that I hope no one has done before. And it could be an Osho meditation when there is like shaking and there is like a chaotic breathing. And if you've never heard of that, that's okay. But it really is. And that doesn't happen the first day because I want people to, again, start to feel comfortable and safe. It's always a little group, 8, 10 people. And then the benefits and how I feel and I see people after 3 or 4 days, it's amazing. They've stepped out of their comfort zone. Maybe the first time they did like a breath work, hour session where it was like really strong. It took them by surprise. And then 2 days later, we redo it and we maybe take it a little longer or deeper. And then, it's just like they get all of these sensations. And because we've been breathing, meditating, practicing, eating well, taking a little bit of rest, all your worries, all your stresses, all your regular life, it's behind you, and you're taking this time to reconnect with yourself. And I know that this sounds maybe cliche, disconnect to better connect, but it's so true. And every time I finish a retreat, the last day I'll ask them maybe, what are your 3 favorite things, and everyone loves the bond that it's created within that group. They didn't know each other the first day. They finished by the 5th or the 6th day, they are best friends, which is really funny and cute. And then I always feel like they've experienced new things. So they've gone out of their comfort zone and they've grown. And I think You know, that's what we want ultimately. You do things, you step out of the comfort zone in a space that you feel safe, and then you realize, oh, well, I did it. I didn't think I was, capable of doing this, and how it made me feel. And you have time maybe to journal as well. We practice gratitude as well to train the mind, to start looking for always the positive and the things we're grateful for. And it's like all intertwine, together. And it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing that I get to lead and to host. So so when are you coming to the retreat?
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm thinking.
Yes.
Oh,
We're in.
No,
yeah,
but
we're
really,
in, yeah.
it is so much
go
more than a
now.
vacation,
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
that immersion
Yeah,
and being able to
immersion. Yeah,
have a chance to make a balance for the whirlwind we get sucked into
Mm.
of all this stuff that's not true. Like that we have to this and we have to that and and it's just all fear-based thinking.
yeah.
When you take that space and you protect it and you take people out of that, they return back to their natural flourishing.
Mm.
You see it, right?
Mm.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there waiting. You just uncover it again. And it's beautiful. We want to bond in community. We want to be in our bodies. We don't want to think of us. We want to be in our body, not be living our body from the outside in, like our lives from the out. That's why mirrors too. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Like it just drags you out of your
Yeah.
body. It's strange. And into your judgmental stuff. Yeah, but no, we should go.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about that whole thin person's thing, because
What
it's
are you
true,
thinking about that?
because it's like I can see why sometimes, I didn't realize, I thought I was the only one who was thinking that about the weight thing. And no, it's like, okay, if I'm going to choose a discomfort, yes, I'd rather choose a discomfort that will get me results. But I don't think people realize the results that this gives.
Yeah.
But again, it's about, am I ready to sit with discomfort? Am I ready to sit with things that I don't want to deal with? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to get, because again, everything what you were saying before, it's like we are about the results that we need to achieve, right? Whereas this is not about achieving, it's about being, it's about going within and observing. And if you're not comfortable with that, that can be very scary for some. And especially when you're not going to achieve anything, really. You're actually going to come back to yourself. So I can see why there could be a story and a big resistance to not want to go there, especially if the results, you're not, you know what I mean?
It's this idea of results,
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like we have all these ladders that we exist on, right? We've got a ladder called thinness. The higher up that ladder you go, supposedly, that's made up. Like we're meant to be all different shapes and sizes. There are some shapes and sizes, obviously not better than other shapes and sizes, but we've been trained and conditioned to think like that, right? And this causes obviously immense pain and suffering. But letting go of that, letting go of what even do we mean by results? Like shifting it, the criteria sets people free. You see that. You see it. You can see it in a person. Like somebody could be really, by whatever standards, large, but so at peace and comfortable with it that they're just radiating and they look so much better than they would look if they were a lot thinner.
Yeah.
They look brilliant, like wonderful, beautiful, but it's because their self-acceptance is happening. So I guess that's where the results are, is in the accepting and to get off the ladder and to stop judging and arranging ourselves in these hierarchies. But that's tough, like we've talked about a lot, especially for women, because we've been encouraged. We're not just on one ladder, we're on like 10 ladders,
Because I mean, to be fair, on some, when you see yoga on Instagram, whatever, there's a lot of thin people and slim and toned and gorgeous, but you know what I mean? So you think, okay, it's easy for them, and you know what I mean? And for them, it's okay. And so you don't see, or maybe this is again, could be very ignorant on my part. Maybe the people I follow, I don't know, but you don't see a lot of varied shaped bodies teaching yoga or like advertising yoga.
It's starting to change, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's starting to change more.
Yeah.
And it's just where you go looking.
Which is,
But yeah, I mean, probably the same blocks, you get people who would probably make wonderful yoga teachers, who probably had it in their mind that because they were in a larger body, that it wasn't for them. And that's really sad. So hopefully that's changing. I mean, you see in class a variety of bodies.
Which is
Absolutely.
awesome.
Always.
And men as well coming much more
Lots of
than
men.
before.
Yeah.
A
So
student of mine,
love that.
he swims, he runs, he does boxing, like all the sports. And yoga was like, like that's not for me. And then his doctor said, you have lower back pain, so you should try some yoga. And he was like, okay. So he came to me because the doctor said you should do some yoga. So he came with all his, judgments and all of the cliches in his mind, and no problem, and he started coming, but he's a very, consistent person. So he was coming once a week. And after 6 months, he started coming twice a week. And after 1 year, one day he said, Estefa, I understand now when you say that yoga is much more than a workout. Tears. I had tears. I was just like, yes. Sometimes it takes a year or the time it takes for you to understand it, for you to be ready to receive, what yoga is bringing to you. I told you how I started yoga, but actually 4 years before that, a friend of mine said, you should do yoga or you should try yoga. And I mocked the person. And I said, oh my God, like I had this like image about yoga and that was boring and whatever. Please, I am now a yoga teacher, so you can evolve as well, and I just feel like at that time I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. It wasn't on the cards for me at that time. Now, I wish I had started earlier, right? Because I know the benefits, how it makes me feel in my skin and in my shoes and all. But it came to me when it had to, and when I was ready to receive all of that. So I think there's more men coming to class. Definitely, there are more shapes of everyone, and also on Instagram as well, because I follow a lot of people. So there's there's
Yeah.
So this has been awesome. I think we could talk all day about yoga. Well, I could talk all day about yoga, all day. So we're going to put in the notes to this where you can find Estefa and her amazing. You've got something coming. You've got a retreat coming up in June and one coming up in May. And one coming up in September.
So I have one in May in Mallorca, Spain. I have Thailand in June, and in December, Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Not September.
No, September.
We're in Philippines?
December. Okay.
It's actually 90 minutes from Manila, which means that from Dubai is a direct flight. So it's in a gorgeous place that has won so many awards, like very sustainable, very...
What is it called?
The Farm San Benito.
I think I've heard of that farm, and they also do like detoxes and things like that. Yeah. I've heard about it a few years ago. Oh, wow.
Great. So we'll put all the details so anybody can find you. And I think we need to plan us going.
Yeah. Well, actually, because I saw your Instagram one on the Mallorca and I was like, wow, that looks really nice. And then I was looking at the food because I love food. And so I was, we're not just going to eat leaves if we go, right? There'll be food.
Never.
No. Yeah. Because I tease Brian. I'm like, yeah, you just eat bird food. I'm like, I want food, Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you. As I could stay here and talk about yoga all day. Thank you so much. It was wonderful and a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for educating me.
See you in class, Dana.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, guys.